Hey, everybody. It's Sunday, November 17th, 2024, and hallelujah, the Canadiens actually had a positive week. There's more to come, I'm sure of it. Plus, I'm going to dive into a little issue that I find the Montreal Canadiens are having offensively because it's time for Montreal Hockey Talk. Hey, everybody. Kosta here with Montreal Hockey Talk for Sunday afternoon or evening or wherever you might be. Thank you for tuning in. And of course, as always, I'll ask you something a little bit later, but something new in town. For those of you that aren't aware, Montreal Hockey Talk is now on Blue Sky. And in order to find us, take a look below at mtlhockeytalk.bsky.social is the handle. So make sure you download the app, create your account. It's an alternative to Twitter, and it's finding a lot of traction. And honestly, it's a pleasant surprise. You know, oftentimes you think social media, people are just going to shift over from one to the other and the vitriol is going to come. But Blue Sky is a place where Habs fans can go, just like Twitter was before it was taken over by the evil empire and when it was fresh, when we were able to go out there, say what we had to say, and not get bashed by everybody and their mother. So be sure to add yourself to Blue Sky and contribute to the conversation. And as I say that, at the same time, as always, I will ask you to please like the show, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, because after all, you don't want to miss a single episode, because we try to keep it fresh and different. We try to keep it a little bit more towards the actual hockey side and not the opinion side. And a lot of what I say may sound like opinion, but it's not. It's based in science. It's based in fact. Over 25 years of experience in hockey, trust me, I've gone a long way to trying to find that happy medium between being a fanboy and actually trying to help everybody understand why certain things happen on the ice. And in saying that, here's something we called last week that actually happened. We wanted the Canadiens to get 4 out of 6 points, and lo and behold, a positive week. 4 out of 6 points. We expected to win against Buffalo. We expected to win against the Columbus Blue Jackets. And of course, we thought for sure that the loss against the Minnesota Wild would come. The Wild, amongst the best teams in the league this year. Well, with good reason? I don't think so. I don't think they're a fantastic thing. I think they were beatable. But if the officials are not going to call the obstruction going on the ice, then Minnesota's going to continue to win. And I'll elaborate with that more. But first, let's go to the first game of the week on Monday against the Buffalo Sabres. Now, you're all going to say, oh, it was a crazy game. 7-5 final. Yeah, it was nuts. Why? Because goaltenders on both sides couldn't stop a beach ball that night. Kane Primo allowing the 5 spot, getting pulled, Montembeault replacing him later on in the hockey game. And on the other side, who was the name of the Buffalo? It was Luukkonen, who started the game for Buffalo, replaced by Devin Levi, Montreal-born Devin Levi, I should say. So, and he allowed a couple of goals as well. So, you know, the goaltending was a wash. Take it, put it aside. The important part of this hockey game is the Canadiens came out ahead by 2 points. They got those 2 points, broke the 6-game losing streak, and everybody breathed a collective sigh of relief. Why? Because if they would have lost against Buffalo, the trend would have just kept on going. Considering we didn't expect to win against Minnesota, the Buffalo game is really the turning point of the season for the Montreal Canadiens thus far. And that's not to say that last week they weren't showing signs of progress on the defensive side of the puck, but to be able to see them put a couple of pucks in the net, I'm sure it created some real confidence amongst the players. It always does. You know, whether it's Nick Suzuki getting off the schneid or whether it's, Cole Caulfield potting in under the goal, a beauty of a tip, by the way, at the side of the goal. You know, elite scorers can do that, and it was a beautiful goal by Caulfield. 3 assists for Juraj Slafkovsky. The list goes on and on. There was a lot of good that came in that game, but there was also a lot of bad. And, it's nice that we got the 2 points, but there is something inherently wrong with the players on the ice when Lane Hutson is out there. And I'm not going to lay all the blame on them, because being able to play with a talent like Lane Hudson creates those gaps. And in talking about those gaps, I'm going back to what I talked about earlier last week, and that's Lane Hudson's ability to step up on players and force them to turn over the puck. And he continues to do that, but he's finding it at inopportune times because more often than not, he's stepping up when there's odd man opportunities for the opponent. And instead of coming back in numbers to support his defensive player, he actually leaves him high and dry. That happened to Matheson against Buffalo with Hudson at his side. Hudson stepping up to the blue line to try to stop the offending player from coming in. And it was a 2-on-1 going the other way because the puck got past him. Dvorak laid on the back check, of course, because he was expecting Hudson to actually get the puck, which he does more often than not. But when he doesn't, you need to be prepared for it. Those are the parts of the game that Marty St. Louis is trying to get these guys to fix. A lot of times, and it doesn't matter what level of the game you're playing at, whether you're playing pro, junior, the American Hockey League. One propensity that players have is they try to jump the zone to be able to get a little bit of a step on the opponent. It's natural to want to do that, whether it's, you see your defenseman coming up, he's got the puck, and you say, okay, I'm going to turn out. But then you're no longer an option. So he's got to look for another way to get the puck to you. So, he's either looping it up out of the zone, putting it off the glass, whatever, or giving it to somebody else, whatever the case may be. But a lot of times, instead of coming back in those situations, and this comes to the forwards as much as it does the defenseman, to be able to read the zone, right, and read the attack by the opponent. If the opponent is coming in and he's got one-on-one coverage on one side of the ice, that being Lane Hudson, and then you've got two players coming in as trailers, somebody has to recognize it, whether it's the defenseman or whether it's the forward, and it should be the forward, that F1 that we always talk about. He should be coming back into the zone to help defend. Doesn't matter what the situation is, okay? I don't care if you're ahead by 5 goals or you're ahead by 1 or you're behind by 2. The whole idea is that you want to be solid defensively. In order to do that, you need to be able to have numbers equal, if not more, than your opponent. And in trying to jump the zone and get out of there quickly, thinking that your player is going to get possession of the puck, you're creating those opportunities. And Buffalo had a lot of them. The Canadiens kept on making that mistake time and time again throughout the game, and Buffalo was having it their way with it. There was another play early in the hockey game where Alex Tuch was along the boards. The defenseman stepped up on Tuch. He fed the puck across, 2-on-1 coming in on the defending Canadiens player. Teams are looking for it. So there has to be a correction made to be able to defend it. There has to be somebody on his horse to get back to create even numbers. And even numbers, I'm not talking about 5 in, 5 out. I'm talking about 3, right? You've got your 2 defensemen. You need to have a third. Why? Because after all, you've got 3 forwards out there. Nobody expects the defenseman to come in there and light the lamp every time. They're there in support offensively, which I will get to later in another part of this show. But what happens is you're not getting back there fast enough. You're trailing the play. You're allowing that odd man situation, which every team wants to have, the 2-on-1, and lo and behold, bang, the puck is in the back of your net. And you're like, the goalie should have stopped it. No, the goalie didn't need to stop it. What should have happened is that the forward should have been back and been able to be there defensively. But whether it's you're going off on a line change when the puck is coming into your zone, which is a no-no, or whether it's, just bold-faced laziness on the back check, somebody's got to get back there. And the Canadiens allowed at least 4 goals in that vein against the Buffalo Sabres, who are not a very strong hockey team. But when you do give those kind of opportunities, those type of mistakes will end up in the back of your net 99% of the time. That's what happened. End result, the Canadiens managed to be able to score a little bit more than the Sabres did. I mean, shots on goal, I think, were 23-17 in that game. 23-18 in that game. I was close. But, it wasn't a full-out crazy game by the Buffalo Sabres, but they scored 5 times on 18 shots. Okay. Goaltending was crap. And you were giving them opportunities to be able to put those limited scoring chances in the back of your net. Limit that, you'll have a better outcome. Moving forward to Thursday against the Minnesota Wild. And now, this is not to say or indict the Canadiens in any way, shape, or form. The Canadiens played a very good hockey game against the Wild on Thursday, despite the fact that they lost 3-0. This has no reflection on the Canadiens per se. Sure, they didn't quite get the shot output that they should have against Minnesota, but Minnesota is that trapping style of team. Okay? That is how they're being coached. And above all else, they end up grabbing, hooking, and it's not getting called. And you could watch that game from beginning to end, and I'm not saying this as a Canadiens fan, I'm saying this as a hockey fan. If you're going to put rules in place to limit obstruction, then a team like Minnesota, who since the days of Jacques Lemaire have used obstruction to their advantage, should be called for all these little chips, picks, you name it. And they were happening all over the ice, whether it was close to the puck or away from the play. Players were taken out and creating odd match situations for the Minnesota Wild by creating little picks on different parts of the ice. And the referees were just absolutely letting it go. Players were coming into the zone. Minnesota players, one hand on their stick, one hand free, grab the player with a free hand, no call. And if you're going to allow a team like the Canadiens to come back from the depths of hell, as I call it, because of that 6-game losing streak, you need to get calls. And they got none on Thursday night. All right, the referees basically put away their whistles and let Minnesota have their way with the Canadiens. And you know what? 3 goals is not the end of the world. Okay, Sam Montembeault played relatively well, despite allowing the 3 goals. Defensively, the Canadiens were strong because it could have been worse. And a couple of those goals came late in the game. So let's not overthink it too much. But at the end of the day, I mean, defensively, the Canadiens are doing well. Offensively, they're still picking it up. But you need to have parity as far as the officiating is concerned. If you're going to call it one way for one team, call it for the other. Because the Canadiens don't obstruct. That's part of the reason why they get beat as much as they do. And God help us, it seems like every time we do obstruct, we get called. So be that as it may. Minnesota made it part of their mission in that game to obstruct everybody on the ice. And you know what? Kudos to them for getting away with it. God knows when I played, I would do stuff like that to get calls. I would do stuff like that to get away with calls. You know, if I wanted to hit somebody into the boards and, you know, I knew a call would come if I did it, I'd trip and make it look like I fell into the guy. They're small little tricks that you learn along the way. And that's what it looked like Minnesota did. But, you know, the educated minds that Montreal Canadiens fans have, we spotted it from a mile away. And there were a lot of people out there on Thursday that were complaining about the fact that obstruction was out there. And so if I'm the Montreal Canadiens, and not necessarily Marty St. Louis, but if I'm Kent Hughes, or even further to that, maybe if I'm Jeff Gorton, I send the video to the league and I ask them, guys, the result's the result, but if we're talking about eliminating obstruction, which they continue to talk about time and time again, why the hell is this not being called? And why are these examples of plays on the ice not being called? There's 2 men on the ice. So whether it's 2 referees, I should say, to make it more clear. So if there's one watching the play and one watching what they're supposed to be watching, which is the other side of the play, so the back side of the play, and those picks are happening and they're not calling it, what the hell is anybody supposed to do? I watched a hockey game the other day in a local league where there was only 2 officials on the ice. So basically 2 linesmen, 2 referees. It's 2 guys, right? So they're both allowed to call penalties. They're both allowed to call the offsides and what have you. The fluidity in that game, because both guys were allowed to call penalties, was so beautiful and something that I find lacks in the National Hockey League. You know, oftentimes it looks to me like the 2 officials, neither of them, you know, they wait a little bit too long to raise their arm, and then neither of them wants to make a call. You know, be bold. If you're going to make a mistake, make the mistake, but at least call it. If you're not sure, right? Raise your hand. I mean, call the penalty. Nobody's going to think any worse of you. The coach is going to, you know, and you can review it later if you think. But to err on the side of caution is always better than to err on the side of error. And that's what was happening. The 2 officials, and I forget who they are. I don't know if it's on my list here. It is not. But whoever the 2 officials were on Wednesday night, somebody at the league office should pull them aside and say, guys, this is obstruction. This is what you're supposed to be calling, and you're not calling it. I don't care who the team is. I don't care if it's Minnesota. I don't care if it's the Devils. I don't care if it's Colorado. I don't give a rat's ass. I don't care if it's Boston or anybody in this league. Okay? Obstruction is obstruction. If you made a promise to us coming out of the lockout in 2004 that you were going to eliminate it, you have to a certain extent, but you need to actually continue to eliminate it. Because if you just ignore it, then it creeps back in. And lo and behold, you have people that don't know how to play the game anymore and have to adjust their way of thinking. Then we move to the Saturday game. The one game of the week yesterday where everybody was like, I don't know what's going to happen. It's Columbus. The Canadiens should beat Columbus every day of the week and 9 times on Sunday. And they did. I mean, granted Columbus, 3 games in 4 nights or whatever the number was, they were pretty much gassed when they came into Montreal. But they made a game of it, right? At one point, leading 2-1. Sorry. Where am I? I'm thinking of another game. They had tied it up in that hockey game, and they made it close for a little bit of time. But the Canadiens getting the 2-1 lead, then the 3-1 lead, and then just extending it, with the Evans goal and then Anderson. I mean, it is what it is, right? The Canadiens came out. They played very well defensively. And the one thing that they added to their game that they didn't have before is that extra push off the rush, right? And that push off the rush and the ability to transition with speed at 5-on-5 especially has always been the Canadiens' bread and butter, okay? The Canadiens were 1 for 4 on the power play. They scored 4 goals at 5-on-5, which is something that has been lacking from their game. So that's a positive as well. I mean, what more can you say? Sam Montembeault was solid in goal for the Habs. He gave them a chance to win. Sure, he allowed the 1 goal, but hell, nobody's perfect, right? And the Canadiens just, brought it to the Columbus Blue Jackets. It was as close to the best game the Montreal Canadiens have played all year to anything that we've seen so far. And that trend should only continue. Now, next week, we're going to get to it later. It's a very light week for the Canadiens, and there should be no excuses. Balls to the wall, make sure you do your job, and come away with 4 points. That's the way I look at it. There should be no excuse. You've got momentum now. You've got confidence. Let's go. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, what am I going to say about Mike Matheson? In the game against the Minnesota Wild, I came very close to throwing my remote at the television. Why? Because Mike Matheson, when it was 6-on-4, should not have the puck on his stick very long. But there he was, out there with Lane Hudson, Suzuki, Caulfield, Kirby Dach, and I believe it was Slavkovsky, but I'd be remiss if I was right about that. Out there at the tail end of the game trying to get a goal. And what happens? The puck's on his stick at the point. The puck's on his stick on the point. The puck's on his stick on the point. Okay, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Oh, my God. He can't find a shot. He gives it to Suzuki. Suzuki does a little turn, gives it back to Matheson. Matheson holds the puck again. He gives it to Hudson. Hudson goes low. It comes back to Hudson. Hudson back to Matheson. 1 Mississippi. 2 Mississippi. 3 Mississippi. It's exactly what Minnesota wants. Okay? They want Matheson to hold the puck because that long-distance shot, he never gets it through. And when he does get it through, he either misses the net and it rims around the boards or he hits glass. Okay? And they know this. They've scouted this. It's what good teams do. And so what does Mike Matheson do? He falls right into that trap. They take away passing lanes. He's got to hold the puck. Hold the puck. He tries to find a shot. They give him a very low percentage shot. And lo and behold, boom. Puck's going the other way. I mean, I was beside myself on that 6-on-4 power play. I couldn't freaking believe my eyes that he held the puck for so long. And this comes down to coaching. There, I said it. It comes down to Marty St. Louis telling Matheson, dude, you can't hold the puck that long. We need to get it to our best players. Dude, you can't hold the puck that long. We got to get it to our best players. And yes, Matheson is a good defenseman. Matheson is not a bona fide number 1 defenseman on any team other than the Montreal Canadiens. And even then, it's questionable, right? Everybody's clamoring about Lane Hudson on the power play. I don't want to see that right now for one very good reason. There's enough pressure on this kid to perform. He's a rookie, right? We've seen it time and time again, whether it was expecting Guillaume Latendresse to get 40 goals or whether it was Mike Ribeiro who, ended up, putting a little bit too much up his nose and being ostracized here in this city because of his reputation. I mean, there's a lot that this market can do to a player when there's extremely high expectations. So can you imagine? There's already high expectations on Lane Hudson. Everybody wants to put him on the first wave of the power play, so he's out there for a minute and a half. What happens if it fails right now? What happens if you take that and now everybody in Habs Nation is like, oh, Lane Hudson is crap on the power play. Oh, Lane Hudson doesn't know what he's doing. The Canadiens are trying to insulate that kid a little bit, which is why they're giving Mike Matheson that first wave power play duty. That doesn't mean it's going to be 82 games worth. All right? As Lane Hudson gets more comfortable and shows he has the ability to do what everybody knows he can already do, but at the NHL level, the trust will be there, and then he will get out there on those first minutes. Like I said before, right? When you see teams score shorthanded, the majority of the time, it's an odd man rush. It's either a breakaway because a pass got missed, or it's a 2-on-1 going the other way because the power play has overcommitted to offense. So you don't want to put Lane Hudson in that position just yet, especially given the fact that he's overly aggressive. So if he's on the point on the power play and the other team gets the puck close to the blue line or maybe just a couple of feet in and he gets too aggressive, you're on the wrong side of an on-man rush automatically. He needs to get that out of his system. So let him get it out of his system, and when he's ready, I'm sure the Canadiens will put him in the position we all want him to be in. But getting back to Mike Matheson. Mike Matheson needs to read the room. If you're out there with the third line, okay, and you want to bring a little bit of offense, okay, then push the envelope a little bit. But when you're out there with the first line, your number one priority as a defenseman, I don't care what team you're on, I don't care what the name on the back of your shirt is, I don't care what logo you're wearing. Your job is to take the puck from the rear end and give it to the forwards. Okay? I don't care who you are. You know, short of being Bobby Orr, because he was the offense on the Boston Bruins in the 70s, and you shouldn't be trying to do too much on the ice offensively as a defenseman. So, Matheson has to learn two very important things. Number one, you don't have to overpower the puck to put it on goal and try to put it through the goaltender. The only guys that ever did that in Montreal were guys like P.K. Subban, Vladimir Malahov, Sheldon Surrey, Shea Weber, guys with bombs. Larry Robinson had a good slap shot, but it wasn't overpowering. Serge Savard had a good slap shot. It wasn't overpowering. Okay? And they still got points. Why? Because they got shots on goals and second chance opportunities. Okay? Lyle Odenline, very good shot, put it on goal, he would get second chance opportunities. Eric Desjardins got the shots on goal, did not have an overpowering shot. You get what I'm saying here. The importance is to get the shot on goal and allow your forwards to get second chance opportunities. So, 2 inches off the ice, on the net. Don't look to pick the corner. And I'll get to that when I talk about shooting. Don't try to pick the corner as a defenseman. The only time you should do that is if you're coming in on the fly and you have a lane to shoot, and it's obvious that you do. That's when you want to be overpowering. That's when you want to really unload everything that you got into a shot. But you can't do that when you're out there on the power play. You need to be able to be smart with the puck. Okay, so right now the way the 1-3-1 works is that the shots are expected to come off the flanks, not from the point. So if the point is off center, so instead on the 1-3-1, you've got that diamond +1, right? Formation on the power play. So let's say, for example, Mike Matheson right in the middle. Your job is to put it to one side or the other, okay? And then fade over to that side. Why? Because if you get a return pass on that side, you have an angle to shoot at. When you're dead center at the point, okay, it's very easy for a defender to get in your face and then for you to make a mistake when you're shooting. So, and then the other thing about Mike Matheson that I wanted to get to is his defensive play, which has been a miss of late. Missed assignments, bad passes, giveaways, you name it. It's gotten better over the last couple of games, especially yesterday against Columbus. He was much more responsible, and you saw that by the one assist that he got in the hockey game. So I believe it's getting addressed, but Mike has to learn to use his feet, man. It's one of his greatest attributes. You got the puck deep in your zone. Don't look to step out from behind the net and move the puck forward with a pass or flip it out of the zone. Skate the damn thing out. The same way Lane Hudson does. Move your feet. You're an elite skater, man. You're not slow. You're not a schlub out there. Move. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. You know, if you were a stay-at-home defensive like a David Savard, I won't expect David Savard to go end-to-end on a rush. I wouldn't expect it from Logan Mailloux. I wouldn't expect it from, Caden Gooley at this point, because right now he looks a little bit uncomfortable. I would expect it from the best skating Canadiens defenseman. Right now, that's Mike Matheson. Wayne Hudson, a very close second. So both those guys should be able to skate the puck up the ice. Now, should they do it all the time? No. But skating up to the blue line with the puck on your stick has never been a crime. And having your defensive partner in behind you for support instead of ahead of you, like we see too often with the Canadiens, that's not a crime either. So learn to read the room. Matheson skates the puck up. The defenseman should swing more towards the middle to defend. Matheson gets rid of the puck. You come back to your side and you defend like two normal defensemen. Or if you're that guy in behind him for support and Matheson sees he doesn't have a pass, can't flip the puck out and doesn't want to give up possession, he can turn back towards his partner, give him the puck, and let him try to skate it up the other side and rotate behind. It's simple, guys. And it sounds like you sit there and you say to yourself, you know what? Matheson should know this. He should. But the question is, has he been taught this? Has he been told to do this? That's the question, right? And one of the things that this league has gotten away from is regrouping, whether it's offensively in the neutral zone or defensively in the D zone. You don't have to give up the puck the minute you get to the blue line. You can maintain possession, regroup, allow your forwards to shift in position, and create other options to be able to pass the puck. It's not happening. Instead, we're flipping the puck out. The first guy I saw on the Canadiens to make that flip pass was PK Subban. And there's another guy who had the ability to skate, but instead decided, you know what, instead of trying to skate the puck up, I'm going to dump it out. Why? Because everybody and their mother was on him for everything else at the time. So he wanted to limit the attention, so he would just dump the puck out and take the pressure off and allow the other team to come right back. I don't want to see the Canadiens allow that. I want to see them be defensively responsible, as they have been, like I said, lately, but in control of the puck. A very simple rule in the game of hockey is that when you don't have the puck, you're on defense no matter what. You're not on offense. If you're forechecking, you're not on offense. You're defending. You're trying to get the puck away from the other player. That's defending. Okay? When the puck is dumped out and you dump it into a corner and chip and chase, neither team is on offense. They're both defending. So, even in their own zone. So, I don't want to be on the defensive side of the puck that often. I prefer my teams to maintain possession and be able to control the game. I'll give you an example, okay? And it's a decade ago, basically. But I was coaching a Pee-wee team, and I had just come in. I hadn't even had a practice with the kids, okay? Walked into the locker room. I introduced myself as their head coach, looked around the room. I had an idea already from the selection process, who was good, who wasn't, who was able to maintain possession of the puck, and I didn't really care. The idea I had was I didn't want these kids, unless they had to dump the puck in. I wanted them to maintain possession of the puck. It was preseason. They were going up one of the best teams in the league. I went into the room and I just told the kids, guys, today I have one rule for you. Don't dump the puck in. And then they asked me the question. If I don't dump the puck in, what do I do with it? You turn around, you pass it back to your D, and you reset. Okay, was the answer I got. Okay. We won the game 9-2. It was a blowout. And it was performed beautifully by the players. And I had players come to the bench and ask me straight up, Coach, if I have the puck and I look back to regroup and there's no option and it's cut off, what do I do? Put my hand on the kid's shoulder and said, then you have my permission to dump it in. Okay. It was understood. And at that point, for the rest of the game, the kids did exactly what I asked them to do. I think in the whole hockey game, they dumped the puck in maybe 5 or 6 times total because they had to. Or, we were killing a penalty or whatever the case is. But it's not hard to do if you apply the concept properly. And it's not a system. Okay? Don't say that it's a system, because it's not. It's one of those concepts that Marty St. Louis talks about. The idea of not relinquishing possession of the puck. Right? It doesn't solve everything, but it takes a hell of a lot of problems away. So, You want to possess the puck, Mike Matheson? No problem. Make sure you regroup. Go back to your own player. Make it work. And if you can do that and you give the puck to your offensive players when you're supposed to and not hold on to it way too long, and talking about that for a second on the power play, okay? There's going to come a time where somebody is going to realize that doing the slingshot with either Nick Suzuki or Alex Newhook is not working. Why, do you ask? It's not working because the slingshot is too far. If Mike Matheson is going to skate the puck to center and then turn his ass around and pass the puck back to Nick Suzuki so he can come with speed, defeats the purpose of the slingshot. The idea of the slingshot was to go from red line to blue line, or, in between that area between the red line and your own defensive blue line and either your own zone or whatever. It wasn't to make a 20-foot pass back into your own zone to a guy who's just barely swinging out of the zone himself. It's counterproductive. You're killing time on the power play for the other team by swinging it back and forcing your player to skate up the ice for another 2 to 3 seconds. Why do you want to waste that time? Shorten it up a bit, okay? You want to get up there? I would even suggest you get close to the blue line and slingshot it back. And imagine the speed Suzuki's already got. It's too far. So stop it. It's killing me. It barely works. Unless your wingers are moving, it doesn't work. So let's go. Find another way to get the puck in the zone. Do what normal people do. Either carry it in, or if you don't see a lane to carry it into the zone, come with speed, get across the red, hammer it to the strong side, and have 2 forwards coming in on the forecheck on the weak side. You have numbers. You're on the power play. Use them. Instead of giving the defending team an opportunity to kill some more time on the clock. Get Matheson away from that. Get him to select proper shots and get him off the ice in critical situations. Unless he's going to give the puck up to his best players in those situations, don't put him out there. Take him away. Put him aside. Give it to Lane. In fact, you know who the perfect guy would be in those critical situations to take that position? Somebody who I would trust. And you're going to be surprised when I say this. David Savard. Why? Because he knows he's not Paul Coffey. He's got the puck on his stick. He's going to move it to a player that he trusts. Okay? And the one thing that David Suzuki does, the nature of things. The one thing that David Savard does extremely well is he uses the back door. So he'll distribute the puck. He'll go back door. Somebody will cover him on the point. And then you can go to Suzuki at the net front, who's a big boy. I mean, there's a lot that can be done. Get Matheson away. Let others try. See what happens. Find what works. And let's move forward. Now, moving on. I have said this to people I know 1,000 times. The art of the shot is so important. And if you watch guys on the ice, you watch them take shots on goal and ask yourself the question, why do I hear glass? Why do they miss? Why do they this? Why do they that? Why can't they? There's answers to every single one of those questions. Now, granted, the fact that the slap shot is no longer part of hockey anymore, it's very rare other than the one-timer. I mean, it's a lost art, right? And it's been taken away from the game. Why? Because we limit time and space. That is the nature of defending nowadays. So guys don't have the time for the big clapper, right? They also don't shoot off the rush anymore because, like I said, guys like Mike Matheson who have speed and can skate the puck up the ice don't take advantage of their God-given ability to be able to come in with speed like a Stéphane Richer did and clap one off the wing where the goaltender can't stop the puck. Stéphane Richer, Guy Lafleur, the last 2 50-goal scorers from the Montreal Canadiens, both guys had absolute howitzers and could blast it in full stride. I've seen a Stéphane Richer shot at half speed. He wasn't even coming in full flight, playing in an alumni game with me. I was the goalie. I blinked, literally, and the puck was off his stick and off my pad. It was that quick. So that's because he was coming in stride, shifted his weight properly, still got plenty of power on the shot. It wasn't a full slap shot. It was a snapper just to the waist, but still had the velocity and still had the ability to create a second chance opportunity. So, why do players shit the bed when it comes to shot selection? I was just talking about Matheson. How many times do we see Mike Matheson take shots and miss the net? How many times do we see, guys coming off the wing or shoot from the wing, and they're looking to pick a corner and they miss, and it hits the glass or it rims around and it comes out, and you got to regroup again. And you're sitting on your couch at home and you're watching the game and you're absolutely yelling at the TV because how the hell did he miss that? I can tell you how the hell he missed that. All right. A standard hockey net at every level of the game is 4 feet high by 6 feet wide. We can all agree on that. The one thing that nobody agrees on is the angle at which to shoot from. And it's the most important part of shot selection. If you're standing up and you're looking at a net straight ahead of you, okay? If you're like me and you're, let's say, 5'9" or even 6 foot, the net's below your chin, probably at your collarbone or below. And so that's where you're shooting for. So your eyes are on that, and that's what you're shooting for. But your angle of looking at the shot and selecting how the shot's going to go through is completely wrong. Because you're not thinking about what's below near your feet on the end of your stick, and that's the puck. The puck isn't up here when you shoot. It's on the ice. And so the angle and the trajectory of the puck is completely different from where your head believes the puck should be going. So what happens? You shoot thinking, I'm going there, but the puck's thinking you're shooting up there because your follow through is going well beyond where the puck should be going. Now, granted, it's not a perfect science. There's a lot of other factors that go into it. One of them being the length of a player's stick. An example of that, Zdeno Chara was 6'7", probably 6'8" on skates. And he had an excessively long stick. I've seen them at the archives at the NHL Hall of Fame, the Hockey Hall of Fame. And you've got a rack filled with sticks, and then you have one section where the stick protrudes another 2 feet. Those were Zdeno Chara's sticks. That's how long they were because he needed them to be that long in order to be able to get his shot on goal and to be comfortable. Okay? Shorter guys that crouched a little bit, like Guy Carbonneau, for example, used a shorter stick. Famously, he used an artist stick, which was excessively short, so that he could get good leverage on the stick, but he was able to skate and get good shots on goal with it as well. Mats Naslund, shorter player, used a short torso. There are other players out there who used longer sticks despite the fact being shorter guys because they want to be out there and be better defensively than really contribute on the offensive side of the puck. That's okay too. But when you take a shot, you should be able to know how to shoot with whatever stick you're using. And one of the things that people forget over time is that the body adapts, right? One day I skate more upright than the next. I may bend over a little bit more as the years progress because of chronic back pain and whatever, but I'm still using the same length of stick as an example. It has to be a constant change. It can't always be, the stick has to be right under your nose, which is what they used to tell us, right? Take your stick, stand it up under your nose, cut it there. That'll be the length of your stick. Then when you get on your skates, it's at your chin at that point, right? Because the blade's about that big, right? The holder. So that was the thought. But the stick, again, if you're a little bit taller or a little bit shorter, you may actually bend a little bit more when you're skating. So shots on the fly become a little bit more difficult, given the fact that your stick is a little bit longer because of your height. It's a science to be able to find the perfect stick length. It's a science to find the perfect blade. That's another problem with shooting nowadays. Guys like, I'll give you an example. Alexander Ovechkin's blade looks like this. It's a hook almost. Okay? How he shoots backhand, it's beyond me. But anyway, he does. But I could never play with a banana blade. It's a blade that the guys used to make. They'd heat it up over their oven and bend it like that when you're playing ball hockey. Right? The old Milik plastic blades. You bend it into almost a U to be able to shoot the puck harder. And then you've got guys like Sidney Crosby who use what's called a wedge. It's a very flat curve, basically angled, so that whether you're using the front side or back side of the blade, there's not as much curvature there, so you can get a better shot off. You get more wood on the puck and better control of where your shot's going. So there's those variants as well. And those things change over time, right? Players that are older in the tooth tend to put a higher curve on their stick because they want to get more velocity on the puck. So they do that, right? You know, there's been guys like Adam Oates, for example, an elite passer. His blade was chopped off basically 2 inches shorter in the front. Why? He found it easier to shoot with. Who'd have thunk it, right? So there's a very, very important lesson to be had when it comes to shooting, and that is make sure that you select the right tool. One of the things that changed in shooting 1,000 times over is the flex of your stick. Wood was relatively rigid back in the day, so you had a little bit of flex, or you had a very sturdy stick. You know, an example would be the stick that Ray Bourque used, and that's a Sherwood PMP 5030, the Featherlight. Probably the Sherwood's most famous stick. And the Featherlight was a very light wooden stick that had a little bit of flex and a lot of juice. So if you took a slap shot with that stick, duck. Nowadays you have, because the guys use more of a wrist shot than they do slap shot, you have sticks with a higher flex. So whether it's 75, 85, the higher the number, the less the flex, right? So you've got guys out there who, you know, when they're at the blue line, they tend to use a higher flex so that they can get a little bit more velocity on the shot. Where guys that use their wrist shot more often will put more flex in because they want that reactive ability off the cue, right, when they're taking their shots. So those flexes also factor into how you release your shot and how you aim. A stick with a lower flex, which is more rigid, has a different release point than a stick with less flex. So if you're using, let's say, an 85, if you're a guy who's used to using a stick with a 100 flex, as an example, and you take a 75 flex stick, you won't hit the net. You'll either miss or your puck will remain on the ice, but you'll miss the net completely. You'll never be able, you'll have the hardest time hitting the target. Why? Because the stick is not comfortable in your hands, right? It's like driving a car, okay? You and your wife might have the same car, but you don't have the same position when you're driving, right? So the same two guys don't use the same stick, correct? So you can't have an all-encompassing strategy on how to shoot. You can have a way to shoot, but you can't have the same release point. You can't have the same way of targeting, and your perspective has to be completely different, okay? And you need to understand your visual compared to the puck's visual, okay? If there's a defending player in front of you, you can shoot the puck. Just make sure you're aiming to his right, okay, or to your left to get the shot through, right? You don't have to go high. You don't have to go low. A couple of inches off the ice, like I said, right, to create offense. The art of shooting and the ability to teach players how to shoot is not something that doesn't have to continually be developed. It does. It changes over time. The older a guy gets, as an example, I've developed something called ankylosing spondylitis, where I've got 3 vertebrae fused in my back. I don't shoot the same way I did before. I can't be as far bent over because of my back issue, so I use a little bit of a longer stick, and I have a different release point, a little bit closer to my rear foot than my front. The closer you are to your front foot, the higher your shot tends to go, right? Because you end up bringing the puck up and sweeping it upwards. If it's back, it's a lot like golf, right? If you want to get loft, you know, you tend to put you tend to put the ball closer to your front foot. If you want less loft, you put it in your back foot, like when you're chipping. So there you have it. It's the same thing for shooting. It's still a pendulum. You're still coming from the back. You're still coming forward. Same movement as a golf swing. So what do? You bring it closer to your back foot in order to be able to get that lower, higher velocity shot, right? Some guys like it in between both legs. Other guys like further back. Some even like it further front because they like to shoot the puck higher. It's all a comfort level. But again, it comes to perspective. If you're looking at a shot and you see the shot's open from here, it may not be open from down on the ice. So you've got to read that whole line. Okay, so if I'm shooting to the goalie's right as I'm looking at the net, and I see that line is clear, then I take the line. If I don't see the line is clear, I move the puck. Those are the things the art of shooting dictates. All those little ideas, they're a lost skill. You can go out there and you can hire somebody to teach how to shoot. You really can. All right? And you can repeat and repeat and repeat. When I was coaching Bantam Double B, I had a goaltender by the name of Jacob who had problems stopping the puck on his right side. So I said, no problem. Wait, when you come across in the butterfly, keep your blocker up and I will shoot for that top corner. I was at the hash marks. Passes from the corner would come out. I would take the puck and always hit the same target, same spot, over and over and over and over again. Jacob finally took his stick and threw it in the corner and he said, "What the hell, coach?" And I was like, "What?" He says, "You never miss." I said, "I do miss. I'm just not missing right now." Reason being, because my ability to shoot towards that corner was better than my ability to shoot on his glove side. If I would have tried that same shot to the glove side, chances are I wouldn't be able to miss. I was more comfortable shooting to that side. I was a right winger. My comfort zone when I played was the far corner. So primarily blocker side. Left-handed shot, much like Mark Recchi, would snap it towards that far corner. I would do the exact same thing. I had success with it. And I would always hit that same target. Why? The second reason why the art of shooting is so important. If you're shooting 6x4, what's the one place you're not going to miss? 2 feet up. Because you're either going to miss high or you're going to miss low, but you're never going to miss the net. You know, I had a discussion once with Michel Goulet, who I had met at a sports celebrity breakfast, and he outright told me, and this was in Quebec City, he outright told me straight up, the reason why he never missed the net was 2 reasons. Number one, his father gave him shit nonstop when he missed the net. He would tell him, it's 6x4, 24 square feet. You shouldn't be able to miss 24 square feet with a 3-inch puck. It made sense to Goulet. The second thing was that his father told him was, if you shoot 2 feet off the ice, you're never going to miss. And I held on to that because it's so true. And I've taught my players that moving forward. It's so true. If your shot is on goal and 2 feet off the ice, you're either going to miss low. So let's say you give yourself a margin of error of a foot on either side, as an example. So you're either going to miss low and get it just above the goaltender's pad in the butterfly, or you're going to miss high and get it over his blocker or his glove. But you don't miss the net. And more importantly, if you do miss low, you create second chance opportunities off of rebounds, which is something that is a completely lost part of shooting in the game. Guys are so focused on shooting to score that they forget that there's 4 other guys on the ice with him, especially the 2 other forwards. And so it's not just about making direct passes to create scoring opportunities. It's the indirect ones off the goaltender that are also important. So go out there with the idea that, and you can try this on your own if you go out there with a skate, with skates and a stick and a puck. Go out there and take a look at what you're shooting at, right? If you have to, go down on the ice and look at the net from where the puck is standing, right? Go down, get on your stomach, look, then stand up and look again and see the difference, and you'll understand what I'm talking about, right? Take 2 different sticks. Take an 85 flex, take a 100 flex. See if your shot's the same from the same release point. It's not. They're all things that have to be factored in. And so a guy that's using the wrong flex just because he's comfortable with it, it doesn't mean he should stay with it, right? Mike Matheson, he shoots the puck and he misses high. Get a stiffer stick. You know, Lane Hudson has a short stick, get a bigger flex because you use a wrist shot and you like to pass the puck more often than not. No problem. Those variants are there. You can read them for most players. There are the odd exception. But for the most part, you watch a player for a game or 2 and you can understand what kind of stick he needs, what kind of shot he takes, and whether or not he's a threat. Mike Matheson is a threat, but not from the blue line. He misses the net more often than not because he's looking to target something that's not there for him to take. So the art of the shot, something that's lost, something that needs to be brought back, and something that really, really is important for the Montreal Canadiens. If they learn, and you could take a look at the stats, if they learn to hit the net more often, Problem solved. Take a look at your shot selection, guys. Take a look at how you're shooting the puck. Take a look at the science of shooting, and you're going to see the difference. Now, the Canadiens have a short week coming up. One game against the Oilers on Monday, and then a gap in between until Saturday when they play the Golden Knights. Both the games at home, so you don't have to go anywhere. There's no travel involved. The Oilers, now they're minus Darnell Nurse. And speaking of Darnell Nurse, I hope they throw the bloody book at Ryan Reeves. Nurse comes out from behind the net and Reeves just pops him shoulder to head. I've never known Ryan Reeves to be a dirty player, although I have read that he's been suspended more than once for illegal checks to the head. This one takes the cake. Shoulder to chin. And you know what? There's no place for that in the game. With everything that we know about concussions, and you look at how Nurse went down, held his chin, and then just, boop, out. I hope he's going to be okay. I really do. And I hope they give Ryan Reeves a 10-game suspension to teach him a lesson. Maybe even more. It should be prolonged because, holy hell, that hit shouldn't happen. He could have easily taken the body and knocked Darnell Nurse into the boards. Easily. If he would have put his shoulder into his shoulder or into his arm as Darnell Nurse was coming out. But to go at his head, what are you thinking, man? Anyway, let's get away from the Toronto Maple Leafs. I hate talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs. Talking about the Oilers, they're going to be minus Darnell Nurse, and we all know that the Oilers have all kinds of firepower up front. Whether it's McDavid, whether it's Draisaitl, Zach Hyman is a threat. You've got Evan Bouchard on defense that can bring it offensively. There's a lot that goes on with the Edmonton Oilers. The one thing that the Canadiens can take advantage of is the fact that Skinner has not been playing well of late. And he needs to be better for the Oilers to have success. So the game plan for the Canadiens should be very simple. Play a more defensive style of game and limit the chances you give to McDavid and to Draisaitl, which is something that they have done in the past couple of years with the Edmonton Oilers. And then take the opportunity to create offense in transition, okay? They can do that. The Oilers, more often than not, tend to end up deep in the offensive zone, and if you manage your turnovers properly and you move the puck quickly, like I keep talking about, you create shots, offensive opportunities in transition. So do that, and you'll have success against the Oilers. And the Vegas Golden Knights, well, they're hot and cold, and they're a hard team to read. So I'm hoping that on Saturday, the trend continues. The Canadiens continue. As long as they play well defensively in their own zone, they're going to create offensive chances. But the one thing I want to see from the Canadiens is to take the shots that they have. Stop looking for that perfect goal. I forget how long ago it was. I think it was maybe at the beginning of when the Canadiens started having trouble with their power play. They kept on looking for real A1 opportunities on the power play. The perfect shot. There's no such thing. So stop looking for it. Take the shots that you're given. Create second chance opportunities, and you'll have success. Defensively, they need to be solid against the Vegas Golden Knights. And then offensively, they have to be selective and be smart when they're taking their shots. It's a simple concept. It's a simple formula. And I'm going to keep harping on it because it's the one thing that I don't see. There's not enough of them hitting the net, which is why the Canadiens have low numbers as far as shot output. And two, there's no second chance rebound opportunities offensively. Now that they're getting the defense short up a little bit, now it's time to work on the offense a little bit more. I think they could bring much more to the table offensively, and I'm looking forward to seeing that during the week. And now, given that they have such long periods of time between the Oilers game and the Golden Knights game, I think it's the perfect opportunity to have a little bit of a mini session. Not necessarily with the whole group, but even with individuals. Take them out on the ice and work on specifics. Like I just talked about the shooting, right? It changes per player. It's not the same concept for every player, right? That's what they should do with each one of these players. There should already be an assessment available to the coaching staff on what the good and the bad are for players. So whether you have to have stations set up on the ice, and I know it sounds like, oh yeah, you're not coaching Mites and you're not coaching Adam. No, I'm not. But station work is station work. When you have multiple things to work on and limited time to do it, you do station work. Why? Because it benefits everybody at the end of the day, and you don't point at one individual person, right? So set up the stations. Set up a one-on-one station with limited space. Set up a station in front of the net so that you force guys to drive the net front. Force guys to shoot low. How do you force guys to shoot low? I used to put up a piece of plywood that was 6x2. So 6 feet wide by 2 feet high off the crossbar, and I'd hang it down. The only way you're scoring is if your shot is off the ice, because I put a bumper down, off the ice and in that spot. Force them to shoot low. Force them to shoot low, what happens? You're hitting goalie pad. When you hit goalie pad, what happens? Oh, second chance opportunity. You can even build a goaltender in a V to mimic the butterfly and put him down and force the drill to go that way. There's a lot of things that can be done with stuff, right? The idea is to have the actual wherewithal to create those different tools to be able to get your drills done, right? What does it take? A couple of pieces of wood, right? For the goalie, for the pads to be down, 2 pieces of wood in a V, and a third piece of wood going back into the net to leave it sturdy so that when it gets hit, it doesn't go flying into a corner, right? It's simple. It's easy to do. You could even create a tie on it so that you tie it to a specific part of the net, and so it doesn't come loose. And you create a tool for the guys to shoot low and create second chance opportunities. You can do that. And all that stuff to say, like, practice is practice is practice. You see guys go in the corner, like we saw video of Patrick Laine on the ice with his teammates today, right? Passing pucks out to Emil Heineman. He was doing it on the forehand. He was doing it on the backhand. That's great. Timing, skill. You're trying to get that feel back for the game, right? Because Laine has been out. It's almost a year and a half, right? With the injury now and his mental health issues. Allow it to come back to you. It's like riding a bike. It will come back to you, but it takes time. Same as we talk about Kirby Dach, right? But it takes practice. And so when you want to implement new things and you want players to change, or you want players to follow instruction, you got to give it to them. And you got to give them time to understand. So whether you're taking what I would do, okay, is take the team and create 2 groups, or 3 even if you want to, or 4, 1 for each line, right? And what I would do is I would take my top 2 lines and I would create video sessions to show them what they're doing right and wrong, and have them collaborate, talk to each other there, as we're doing the session. And then the other part of the team would be on the ice working on specific drills. And you could bring more than just those guys there. You can bring up a couple of guys from the American Hockey League. I mean, Laval's down the street. They can practice with the team anytime they want, right? So do that. Take advantage of what you have available to you and use the tools that you have or tools that you need to create, like I talked about, to be able to give your team an edge. It's all about thinking outside the box. That's how you teach your team new ways to win. That's the idea behind the way Marty St. Louis coaches the Montreal Canadiens. It's a different way of thinking. It's a hybrid way of playing, and it's a different way to win. The question is, can you bring it all together? This week is crucial. Last week was just as important to be able to get the team's confidence, but this week is just as crucial in the sense that it's a chance for the Montreal Canadiens to actually teach their guys to move forward a little bit. That's it for this week's episode of Montreal Hockey Talk. I know you guys, if you like the coaching stuff, great. Leave it in the comments. If you don't like the coaching stuff or you want me to limit how much of it I talk about, let me know. But I think it's important for you guys to not just raw, but to understand the process, right? It's easy to say, he should have done this and he should have done that, but then you have to ask yourself why he didn't do it. And there has to be an understanding there. You play it to a certain level, you understand it. You coach to a certain level, you understand more. And then you can bring the two together and bridge the gap and try to give you guys every tool available to you so that you understand and you could educate yourself so that, you know what, we all love our team. Because right now, there is so much negativity around Martin St. Louis and what he's doing with the team, and Kent Hughes and what trades he's making and not making. I'm going to end with this. Making trades is a panic move. It's not something that you want your team to do mid-season. It's something you expect as the season progresses. It's something you expect in case of injury. Changes like that change the dynamic of a locker room. Do you really want to do that when your team's psyche is so fragile? No, you don't. We've got a good group of players. Everybody has a specific talent that they could bring to the ice and a specific tool that can augment the way this team plays. So let Martin St. Louis take advantage of the tools he has at his disposal and make the team better. And it will get better. It already has inside of the last 2 weeks, and I'm sure it will continue. Have a good week, everybody. Go Habs, go. We'll see you next Sunday.